Well, hello, everybody, and good morning. My name is Ricardo Cabrera, and I am the operations manager at the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Boulder County. Today, I'm representing the Northwest Chamber Alliance, which we are a part of. It's a group of about 8 different chambers in the Northwest area. And we are going to talk with Joe Varela today about this recent unemployment fraud that has been going on. I'm sure you guys have been hearing about it or been a victim yourself. So before we get to our topic, Joe, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you, Ricardo. I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well as well. It's great to be with you here today. Hopefully we can provide some information to people about how to handle this unprecedented economic crisis, and on top of that, dealing with identity theft and fraud in the unemployment insurance system.
Absolutely, and I can tell you, I myself was a victim of this particular case of fraud, and a lot of our chamber members around the Boulder County area and Northwest area have been as well. So therefore, we're going to educate ourselves a little bit with that. But before we get to work, Joe, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, thank you. You know, I have been in the public workforce system all my career. I'm a native Coloradan. I grew up in Durango, went to school at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and have been practicing human capital development, workforce development my entire career. I have some local experience with Arapahoe Douglas Works Workforce Center for many years. I worked at the Department of Labor under the Obama administration and helped with the introduction and the technical assistance training for the system nationwide with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. I spent some time with the Markle Foundation, really looking at how we can diversify opportunities for workers in the United States, specifically here in Colorado, and really look at skills and competencies rather than preventing people from being successful in the workforce on proxies such as years of experience or education credentials, and really trying to get to a place where people could qualify for jobs based on their competencies and skills, and was lucky enough to be asked to come lead the Department of Labor and Employment by Governor Polis in 2019.
And we are so glad to have you here today. So thank you for being here, Joe. So let's get to work then. And let me ask you first, fraud, we're talking about unemployment insurance, but we're talking about fraud as well. So how does this happen? And in the specific case of fraud, how would we know, the employee and the employer, how would we know it happened?
Very good question. And you know, just for some historical background, in 2019, the department, for the year 2019, we only had 88 fraud investigations. That's 88. And we know in 2020, we had over 900,000 suspected fraud claims into the unemployment insurance system. The fraud that we're used to prior to this pandemic was perhaps someone going back to work and forgetting to tell the unemployment insurance that they were collecting wages at the same time collecting unemployment insurance. That was by far the type of fraud we were seeing. The type of fraud we're seeing in today's environment involves identity breaches, or I'm sorry, security breaches, where fraudsters have accessed the databases of companies such as Equifax, companies such as the Marriott Corporation, companies First Financial Corp, Facebook, Friend Finder. These are, you know, billions of identities that these fraudsters have access to. They're purchasing it on the dark web for as little as $2 per identity, and then using that identity to go into the Colorado unemployment insurance system, as well as every other state in the country, and taking that valid personal identifiable information, including your date of birth, your address, your social security number, and applying for benefits on your behalf fraudulently. So that's what's happening. And the data breaches is not something that happened here at the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment. It's data breaches in other companies, and now that data is available, being purchased and using with the unemployment insurance system.
Wow, so, that's amazing. 900,000 cases this 2020 for the CDLE, Colorado Department of Labor and Employment by itself. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just, you think about it, if we would look, the pandemic really started at the end of March, April of 2020. We're into this about 13 months. To date, if you've taken the entire time frame, we're about 1.2 million suspected fraudulent claims. we have less than 1 million, about 950,000 legitimate actual claims. And so our system is dealing with more suspected fraudulent attempts to get benefits than we actually are with the overwhelming number of 980,000 claims. You know, our weekly average of claims has been right around 14,500 if you take the 13 months over. Before the pandemic, our weekly average was about 2,000 claims a week.
Wow, wow. So how would I know then that, you know, I've been fraudulently claimed? So either if I'm the employee or if I'm the employer, because this actually affects two different individuals.
Yep. As the employee, sometimes the fraudster is using accurate information that includes your actual address. Remember, the only thing we have is what these fraudsters are putting into the system, either manually or through some technology that auto-fills the form. So if the address is correct, you probably will get a letter saying, hey, the Colorado Unemployment Insurance Division has received an application for unemployment on your behalf. If this is correct, okay, but if it's not, please contact. And so that would be the first indication that someone has your personal identifiable information as an employee. As an employer, every case is required for us to do investigation work. So if someone files unemployment, we send out paperwork to the last 5 quarters of employment for you. And so a lot of times that's auto-filled based on your social security number, but a lot of times these fraudsters are putting just in any places of work. And so it'll go out. And remember, the information that they're obtaining is pretty sophisticated. There are mules on the dark web that are called identity mules that they will guarantee that this information has not been used in Colorado and that it will be accepted. And if not, they'll give a refund to these fraudsters for buying bad information that didn't get approved in our system. So it's very sophisticated. And so as an employer, if you get information about someone who's actually working for you, not working for you, or never worked for you, we want you to contact the Department of Labor as quickly as possible. And we'll go into that information and it'll be provided to you later on this webinar. But we want to know about it, and we want you to fill out our fraud prevention forms, both as an employee or a worker and as an employer as well.
Right, so just so you know, we're going to share all this, the contact information down here on the description of this video, so you know where to go in case there is a fraudulent claim that happens for both cases, if you're in the individual or if you are the business. So in the past, when there was something like this, we would have to go and do an appeal, right? And that has changed now, is that correct?
It has. We don't want you to fill out an appeal on a fraudulent case because we want to use that appeal process for legitimate cases. Believe it or not, there are reasons why people may not be eligible for unemployment in the current situation. They could have quit. They could have had no reason to leave their job. So we want to keep that process contained. So we want employers to fill out the form for fraud as an employer. And really that is cdle.colorado.gov /fraud/prevention, and you'll get that information. Same thing as a worker. If you get a Reliacard in the mail from US Bank, or if you get a letter from us saying that you've applied for unemployment insurance and you haven't, we want you to go online and fill out that fraud form. Once that fraud form is complete, rest assured that we will lock down that case. You may get paperwork because the system's automated, and so paperwork may continue to go out for a few weeks. But once you fill out that form, it's now automated that goes into the database and the system that flags that. I need to mention at this point, you know, before the pandemic, or right at the beginning, in June or July last year, we noticed some unusual activity, and we started putting in fraud indicators. And we started with 1, 2, we had 8 for probably most of the summer. At this point in time, there are over 58 fraud indicators that every case, ongoing and new case, is we run those through every individual case every night, and we collect if there's a high probability of fraud on a new case or a continuing case, those cases are locked down. And so, you know, for those who are getting Reliacards in the mail, if you get a Reliacard, probably I would be able to say 95% there's no money on that card and never will be money on that card. That case has already been flagged as potentially fraudulent, and the financial assets have been frozen, and so no money is put on that card. Just remember, the governor's intent was to get out unemployment benefits as quickly as possible during the pandemic because so many people lost their jobs overnight. And so we're still operating in that world that we want to get the cards out so that people have access to that money as quickly as it's approved. And so the card goes out, but none of the financial approvals go out until we know it's an actual case. So we're pretty good at that 13 months into this, but people are always, oh my gosh, I got a card and there's money on it. Chances are there never was money and never will be money on that US Bank Reliacard.
Excellent. So you get a fraudulent claim. If you're the business owner, you go to the website that we're going to put down here, and you let us know. We let you know that you lock everything down. If you're the individual, you may be able to, you can do this as well, but do you have any suggestions for somebody like me that was actually, hacked, if you will, and somebody put a claim on my name? But that means that my name is out there with my social security number and all private information. What can I do to protect myself personally, knowing this information now?
Yeah, very, very great question, Ricardo. And unfortunately, I myself, the executive director of the Department of Employment, has also had my identity used to apply for unemployment insurance. Yeah. So we're in good company. Unfortunately, there's about 102 million of us in Colorado in that situation. And so I would immediately, go to CDLE website, fill out the form, but then for yourself, remember, identity theft is one of the very few crimes that if you're the victim, there's not a lot of support for you from the enforcement agencies. It's a crime that, as a victim, you need to take accountability and say, how can I prevent this from doing damage? And so, fill out the form online for us, but then go immediately to the credit bureaus. There's 3 of them, and online we have a step-by-step process for you to follow. Put an alert or a freeze on your social security number with those bureaus, and then make sure that you are active about this. You can go to the federal government has an ID verification page or identity theft page that can give you some recommendations. But really, someone filing with your social security number, it's very scary. It's unfortunate it happened, but there's not a lot of damage to your credit that because they applied for unemployment insurance is going to happen to you personally. The damage happens when they realize it worked. Then they're going to take that social security number and possibly apply for credit in your name and on your behalf, get it approved, use it, and then you have to clean up that mess. So that's why it's so important to reach out to the credit bureaus and put a freeze or alert on your social security number immediately.
Yep, and by the way, I would say that doing that is a great thing to do regardless. It's a great habit and a great safety habit to do personally. So you can go to one of the 3 credit bureaus, Equifax, TransUnion, and remind me of the third one in a moment.
Experian.
Experian, thank you. You can go in and freeze your credit. And what that means is that anytime anybody, yourself or anybody else, goes and tries to open a line of credit or get a loan, they check against these companies. And if your credit is frozen, you're not getting it. So, and it's for yourself and it's for anybody else. So it's a great protection and about the only thing you can really do besides letting people know that you've been hacked. All right, Joe, well, let's go to the second question here. We talked about this. So let me ask you this. Will my fees go up, my unemployment fees go up every month, or premiums, if I did get hacked?
Great question. And I want to let you know that the far majority of fraud we're seeing is in the federal extension program. So, the Families First Act, the CARES Act, the Continued Assistance Act, now with the American Rescue Plan Act. They're federal programs. And what happened is, in order to get the money out as quickly as possible, they didn't put a lot of safeguards. With the trust fund where premiums are collected from employers, that's based on utilization with the state unemployment system. And so most of our fraud is happening in the federal programs. And so these are the programs that add, $600 a week. Now we're at $300 a week in extra benefits. It added benefits to contract workers and gig workers. That's the program where we're seeing fraud because it didn't allow us to verify income. It was based on information provided from the applicant and also attestation to their wages. And we couldn't go to an employer and ask for verification. We had to take that attestation. So that's where most of the fraud is happening. But if by chance we paid out on your employer account and it was fraudulent, we will correct that. You will not be held accountable for any fraudulent payments going out for someone that didn't work for you, never worked for you, or that you don't know of. So that the system will catch up with that, and so you won't be held accountable and see premium increases because of that. Where you will see increases over the next year is because the trust fund is insolvent. Automatically, there's a surcharge to bring that trust fund back up to solvency over many, many years. And I can tell you, before going into the pandemic, the state trust fund for premium paying employers was about $1.1 billion. We've paid out over $3 billion legitimately from that trust fund. So we're borrowing from the federal government, 0% interest, thank goodness for now, to make those payments, legitimate payments every week. And so there will be a time and place that we have to true that up, and employers will see a surcharge to get us to solvency probably in 5 or 7 years, so that we can start building up that trust fund to be prepared for that. So that's where you will see some premium increases, but not for fraudulent payments.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. That's a great safety net for the employer if you do get fraudulent claims. And all you have to do, go through the process, make sure you let CDLE know, and then everything else will take care of itself. So here's thinking about all this now, I have a question. So I was hacked. There was a fraudulent claim. I let you know, and now my name and my case is locked. So what happens now if I really do lose my job in 3 months for no fault of my own, and I try to then request a legitimate unemployment claim?
You know, Ricardo, these are the real victims in this whole mess. It's the people who may not have ever heard that their identification was stolen in the previous months. But now all of a sudden their job situation changed and they need to apply for unemployment. They go into the system and it says your case is locked. That's unfortunate, because automatically most likely it's locked because someone used your identity and applied for a case. Chances are we stopped it, never paid out, but the case is still locked to prevent further fraud from happening. You need to go to CDLE, colorado.gov, MyUI, coloradoui.gov, and file a claim department. In there's an unable to file a claim form. And if you fill that out, someone will contact you so that you don't have to wait for a representative on the call lines or get stuck online not knowing what to do. But if you fill out that form, someone will immediately get back to you, or I should say just as quickly as possible, to work you through that process, because we need to verify who you are and clear that so that you can get benefits that you're entitled to. So it's on the form, file a claim, and then unable to file a claim form.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like you have everything covered from all aspects, and and yes. So with that, Joe, if there's anything you think we missed that we need to talk about?
I would just like to remind people that we're doing everything we can. And our number one priority is to get out benefits as quickly as possible to those who legitimately need the benefits of unemployment insurance. But we have created a whole new department and focus on fraud prevention, detection, and prosecution. And so I just want to let people know that the far majority of the fraud that's happening in the system is from foreign actors, foreign criminals. We're working with the State Department and other federal agencies to recoup those funds and go after those criminals. It's very hard to work with foreign entities in fraud, but we do know some of the fraud is homegrown. We do have fraudsters here in our own state that are trying to hack the system and get in and file claims. And in the next coming months, we will be prosecuting if we have good evidence that they're fraudulent applicants. So I just want you to make sure that we take fraud seriously. We don't want to pay out any undeserving money, but keep in mind, I said we have 58 indicators of fraud. We started with less than, in a month when we first started 8. We only find out about them once they happen. And so there are people trying to infiltrate the application system, get in, and then we put a trigger on. We don't know what's coming at us next, but we have to figure it out and then stop it. So unfortunately, some financial money does get out the door, but we're right on top of it to try to stop it as quickly as possible.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you for all this great information, Joe. Before we go, I have a surprise question for you. Are you ready?
I am.
All right, Joe. So what is your favorite word?
My favorite word is opportunity.
Excellent. And with that, we'll say thank you to everybody for watching, and until next time.
Thank you. I'll be well.